The Maple Leafs lay an egg against Ottawa and now head over the border to play Washington in a second half of a back-to-back. Let's unpack it all on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, riding solo with you today. Dave is off covering the Grey Cup, so while he's in travels, unable to do today's show, I've got you guys all by myself, which is a little bit of a throwback for, the first 2.5 years of the show. It was just me doing it solo, so for those who've been listening all 5 years, you've definitely seen a couple of these podcasts. We'll see if it's like riding a bike. We'll see how well I can adjust to not be, having someone to bounce off of. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, not a great game by any stretch of the imagination for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're shut out by the Ottawa Senators 3-0. First time they've been shut out on home ice since 2021, the Canadian division year. It's been that long since the Leafs have been blanked. So not a great outing though, all around. So we'll break down tonight's game, get to the good, the bad, the ugly. And then they got to get right back up on the horse to taking on the Washington Capitals tonight in a pretty solid game. And they have to travel down to Washington. So cross-border travel overnight. Now they play Washington. Doesn't get much easier. That's a team that's been rolling. So we'll preview that game tonight as well. But let's break things down from what we saw yesterday with the Leafs losing 3-0 to the Ottawa Senators in the Battle of Ontario. And that's what's kind of upsetting about the fact that the Leafs and how garbage they played last night from start to finish is that, going into it, I think everybody was excited for this Battle of Ontario. Both of these teams are actually good finally, right? For the years, when the Leafs were garbage 15 years ago, the Sens were a pretty good club. And then all of a sudden, Matthews, Marner, Nylander start popping off, and the Senators go into an abyss. And finally, it seems like this year we've got a situation where both teams, are vying for playoff spots and a valuable 2 points on the line here, and Toronto just did not show up at all. They give up a goal 40 seconds in and really never found momentum at any point in that game. It felt like Ottawa had the puck in the offensive zone the entire time. I believe there was a quote from Craig Berube yesterday post-game basically saying, I said they had the puck the whole game pretty much. Tonight we didn't have control of the game at all. And honestly, it's true. And if you look at what happened statistically, I mean, it's exactly what ended up being the case. I do have the stats for you. 41-27 were the shots on net. 41-27 shots on goal. And Ottawa had 74% of the expected goals at 5-on-5. That's a crazy number, folks. That is an absolute high number where Ottawa just took it to Toronto all night long. And look, these games are going to happen. This is one of those one-offs where we can throw it in the garbage, throw the tape out, and it's just, Oda kept calling it a Tuesday night special. But we always refer to those, random, Tuesday night games in November that no one cares about. And ultimately, hopefully that's what this becomes. If they can get back on the horse and if they can, win some games going forward, no one will look back on this game. But it certainly was not one to write home about. I think that the Maple Leafs just played with a lack of purpose, a lack of energy, a lack of urgency also. And the turnovers were just insufferable. I mean, they were credited with 20 turnovers last night. 20. And those mistakes came back to bite them in the ass. I mean, you look at all three goals, all three of them. I mean, the Maple Leafs either turned the puck over or made a big, massive mistake, right? Let's look at the 1-0 goal. The Leafs turn the puck over, trying to gain the zone to start the game. Sens end up taking the puck off of William Nylander. They got numbers going the other way. A 4-on-2 ensues, and they score off the rush. 1-0, 40 seconds into the game. And then look at the second goal. Morgan Rielly tries to flip the puck up. He clears a rebound and tries to get it out of the zone, and it's kept in by Ottawa, and the puck ends up in the back of the net 3 seconds later. So another one where the Leafs fail to clear the zone, and Ottawa makes them pay. And then the third goal, Jake McCabe makes a bad pinch, totally misses the puck, doesn't get a piece of the body of Michael Amadio, former Maple Leaf, who's got a couple of goals on Toronto since leaving the Buds, I might add. Seems to always be the case. But Amadio just kind of chips Chase, and he scores off the rush on odd man rush again. So, it seemed like all three of the goals that were scored on Toronto last night were all kind of self-inflicted wounds. And I've always said that, Toronto has always lost due to self-inflicted wounds. That's typically when they're losing hockey games. It's not that other teams, dominate them or beat them. They typically beat themselves. And that's really what we saw happen last night. They beat themselves because they just didn't show up ultimately. The attention to detail, they played, purposeless hockey last night. Credit to Ottawa, who definitely showed up and played with a lot more urgency, played with a high compete level. But even the players last night in the post game kept referring to the game and alluding to how the Sens were just playing faster. They were playing faster, they're playing more urgent. They were attacking the puck, attacking the net, and Toronto didn't do a whole lot to stop them and get in their way. It's just one of those nights, one of those games. It's not to say that the Leafs suck and the Leafs, the season's a waste and trade this guy, trade that guy, like the crazies on Twitter are out there saying. It's an unfortunate game for Toronto to blow here because, again, it's a valuable 2 points in the division. And it's, the first game of the Battle of Ontario of the year. You're hoping that they would wake up for it. It is interesting, though. I think it was mentioned on the broadcast by Cheryl Pounder how the Leafs have yet to get themselves on a good run. They'll play 3 games and then have a stinker, and then play 3 more good games and then have a bit of a stinker. And she said, I wonder if it has something to do with the style of hockey that the Leafs are playing, that heavy hockey, that physical, hard-nosed hockey that they aren't used to playing, and then they haven't been in the Sheldon Keefe, Kyle Dubas era. But now, they're playing north-south and they're putting their bodies on the line a little bit more, and maybe it's taking a toll. And, they're just a little winded and gassed and battered and bruised and beat up after a few games of hard battle. And every now and then you're going to get one of these. And that there could be some credence to that. I really think there could be some validity there. It's kind of been a bit of a trend, I guess, early on in the season, and it's still early, so it's tough to call it a true trend. But it's been a few times now where the Leafs played well first string of games, and then they kind of look tired, and then they get beaten, and then they play well for another 3 games, and then it kind of goes south again for them. So I don't know, something to keep an eye on moving forward on the season, and possibly it's got something to do with the new style of play, the physical style of play. It's definitely harder to play this way, that's for sure. But this is what's needed in the playoffs. This is what they need to be able to do to go on a run, right? They can't just play that way for 3 games. You got to play that way for 7 games in round 1, possibly another 7 in round 2, 3, 4, as many as 28 games, right? If all 7 go to, or all rounds go to a Stanley Cup. So something that the Maple Leafs are going to have to get used to. I can tell you that. And again, not sure if that is the issue, but it is something to keep an eye on. All right, coming up next, we'll get to the good, the bad, the ugly from tonight's 3-0 loss to the Ottawa Senators. And then we will turn the page. Leafs and Caps tonight. Will Matthews play? Who knows? But there's a special occasion happening tonight. A big-time milestone for Maple Leaf. We'll tell you what that is coming up on the other side. I'm Mike DiStefano. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code NHL. With 5 generations of experience, they constantly deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steak have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift and thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners will get an extra $30 off with the promo code NHL and a $30 reward when you shop early. That's a 50% off at omahasteaks.com. OMAHA steaks.com and an extra $30 off with the promo code NHL. Minimum purchase may apply. Today's episode is also brought to you by Select Quote, the World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. You invest so much time and care into yourself, and to be the healthiest and best version of you, Select Quote's exclusive policies can reward that. If you're in good health, they work with you and with carriers that could get you the same day coverage for up to $5 million with no medical exam required. Head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Select Quote, they shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano with you on a solo show as the Maple Leafs are coming off a 3-0 loss to the Ottawa Senators. And I joined the Locked On Sens podcast yesterday. Shout out to the boys over there, Ross and Pillsy. They're good dudes. They're frenemies at this point. And I joined their podcast for a preview. And I got to tell you, I went in there, I was talking smack, saying Linus Ullmark, Anthony Stolarz turned out to be the better player of the two. Yeah. And yeah, it all blew up in my face. So that's my bad. Maybe this is my fault. I jinxed the team potentially. But yeah, I got a couple texts last night from the boys over there, basically shoving all my words back down into my throat after what ensued, because the Leafs did not play a good game last night. And as we do after each and every game, we go through the good, the bad, and the ugly. There really wasn't much good about last night's game. I'll be completely honest with you. Maybe they played a little more assertive in the third period, I suppose, if I really was trying to find something. Could, I guess, gas up the penalty kill that did go 3 for 3. They didn't allow a power play goal. So I guess a perfect penalty kill is I guess what we could go with. But there wasn't much to really write home about in this game. It was pretty bad from start to finish. An off night for the Maple Leafs, and Coach Craig Berube even said so himself. He said, quote, "Not much good to talk about the game. We got outskated. They wanted it more than us. That's the bottom line." And I honestly agree. I felt the same way watching it. So not a whole lot of good to take out of last night's game, but I guess we could give some love to the penalty kill for going 3 for 3. The bad, well, there's a decent amount of it. Let's go with the start. I mean, you give up a terrible giveaway trying to gain the zone right at the start of the game. You give it up, and then you allow a 4-on-2 to go down the ice the other way, and they score the opening goal of the hockey game just 40 seconds in. I mean, you can't get a much worse start than that. On home ice at that, to really, not that the Scotiabank crowd, is hardly ever in it, but to really take the crowd out of it early on and silence that place. That place was like a morgue. Let me tell you, man, it was real quiet all night long until the end of the game when the boo birds came out. The Leafs literally getting booed off the ice. I wouldn't be surprised. I didn't see anything on Twitter about a jersey hitting the ice, but that seems to be any loss at this point on home ice. It feels like we're seeing that happen. Wouldn't be surprised if there was one. Not that it's granted. I definitely think it's a loser move to do, but it wouldn't shock me. Nothing shocks me anymore when it comes to Leafs, Maple Leafs hockey and Leafs Nation. But a bad start for sure. There's no other way to sugarcoat it. You give up a goal 40 seconds in. The Leafs were never able to recover after that too. It kind of set the tone that Ottawa was there to play and Toronto was not, and that was very apparent right from the get go. And then the turnovers, like we talked about earlier. I mean, you give 20 turnovers, 20 turnovers. Like, that's just brutal. I mean, how do you give the puck away so much? I mean, you talk about how the puck was on the stick of the Senators the whole time. Well, that's because Toronto was just giving it to them. I mean, literally just terrible giveaway after giveaway. I mean, anytime the Maple Leafs had a chance to clear the puck, they really weren't able to do so cleanly. Didn't have tremendous success with their zone exits last night. And obviously those turnovers turned out to be very costly. Twice in the turnover on the first goal and the second goal, Riley unable to clear the puck. He ends up turning it over at the blue line, or it's kept in by Ottawa at the blue line. And then, really, really bad mistake, I guess, on the third goal, where the Leafs trying to cycle the puck up to the top of the blue line, and McCabe, bad pinch, goes the other way, and that's another goal again. So not a great night for the Maple Leafs. Ugly game overall. So I guess you could just say the game was ugly as a whole. But they got to be better. They got to be much better than that. Absolutely. I mean, to only muster up 0.7 expected goals at 5-on-5, 0.7. They generated 2 high danger chances the entire night. 2 high danger chances at 5-on-5. They just didn't have it. They didn't have it. There's no other way to really break it down. They just did not have it last night. And they took it on the chin. And now they got to regroup and they fly down. I guess they probably flew down last night to Washington. And hopefully they play a lot better, because if they play like this against the Capitals, that's another L that's incoming for the Maple Leafs. So why don't we take a break? We'll come back, regroup, and turn the page on last night's game and start to look ahead to tonight's matchup, Leafs and Capitals. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NHL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NHL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel today to join. You could get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. My best bet for tonight's game, I do like the Maple Leafs. Go over on FanDuel. I do like for William Nylander to record 3+ shots. You put down $5 on that. If it hits, you'll win yourself $150 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Network. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. It's Mike DiStefano riding solo here on the podcast today. We've got new episodes coming out each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the show. It's free and available wherever you get a podcast, and also up on YouTube. All right, so turning the page, got the Maple Leafs taking on the Washington Capitals tonight. Washington, I mean, they're going to be well rested, right? They haven't played in a couple of nights, and they're waiting for the Maple Leafs, who just played the Ottawa Senators last night. So they'll have to be much better than they were yesterday. They'll have to play with far more urgency, far more purpose, take care of the puck for certainty against this Washington team who's just scoring at will. Like, this Washington team is really, really scoring at an alarming rate. Over 4 goals per game is what they're averaging. And this is not the Washington Capitals of last year. Like, they did a really good job of retooling on the fly, adding guys like Dylan Strome last year, adding a Jacob Chikrin, a Pierre-Luc Dubois. You've got young players like Connor McMichael stepping up. Alexei Protas has stepped up for them. They're getting good goaltending out of both of their goalies, Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren. And then obviously the head of the snake, Alex Ovechkin, has been on an absolute tear to start the season. I mean, this guy is kind of turning the clock back. What he's doing at 39 years old is kind of absurd. 10 goals in the first 14 games of the season. And that's after going like 3 or 4 games without a goal to start the year. He's got 7 in his last 7. It's incredible what Ovi's doing. He is chasing down that Gretzky record and hunting down that record, it feels like. So he's gonna, at least you're gonna have their hands full with Ovechkin tonight, obviously, with him looking to continue to get as close as he possibly can to that record. I think he's 32 tucks away at this point now from surpassing Gretzky. So hey, it's very possible, man. Very possible that he could end up getting there. But yeah, the Leafs will have their hands full with this team tonight. They're playing really well. They really are. And they're just coming off of an 8-1 dusting of the St. Louis Blues, a team that Toronto has had troubles with this season. So that doesn't bode well, obviously, going into a second night of back-to-back. But hey, Toronto, they've had a lot of success against this Washington team of late. They've won 8 of the last 10 games against the Capitals. Again, not the same team. But we'll see. Oh, no. What is going on here? 1 second. My apologies there. The fire alarm ended up going off in my apartment doing testing again. It's been a week-long thing. It's been really, really annoying. But where was I? So talking about the Leafs and Capitals tonight. And yeah, Toronto's had a lot of success against this team as of late. However, that's usually been with Austin Matthews in the lineup. Now, we do not know as of the recording this podcast, whether or not Austin Matthews is going to play. And obviously, with it being a back-to-back and a back-to-back with travel included, there's no morning skate. There's no practice at the very least for Toronto this morning to know if he is going to be in. We'll just have to figure that out. So he'll be a game time decision, probably listed as doubtful once again. So we'll see, but hopefully he can return because that's what we all want to see. Matthews versus Ovi, fire versus fire. And Matthews has done well. He's got 13 goals in 17 games against Ovechkin and against this Washington Capitals team. 5 goals his last 5 games. So he shows up for these ones. When he's got Ovi on the other side, it's like they try and show up each other who is truly the best goal scorer in the world. But right now, not too sure if he is going to play. He is once again going to be listed as doubtful. I'd imagine Joseph Woll will get the start. So it'll be a good test for Joe Woll. Then let's be honest, the Maple Leafs didn't play that hard last night. They did not skate their asses off last night. So they should have a lot of energy. They should have some energy in this game, unlike most nights on back-to-back where you feel like maybe things will get a little heavy toward the end. The Maple Leafs, they should have their legs because they didn't really exude a lot of energy last night. So hopefully that bodes well for the Maple Leafs. Again, it is a tough matchup. The Capitals are a much better team than anyone anticipated. I'd say that they're the early season surprise club in the NHL. Them and I guess Winnipeg. I don't think I expected Winnipeg to be 15-1 to start the year, but the Capitals are right up there, probably the Eastern Conference, team that's surprising people. And, a lot of it has to do with the fact that Ovechkin's turning back the clock and scoring at an elite rate again, which he did not really do last year until the back half. The fact that he's doing it right off the get-go this season has a lot of Caps fans happy and a lot of people who have wagers on him becoming the all-time goal scorer by end of season. Also, a very happy campers. But we'll see. Should be a really good game tonight. One other thing about tonight's game, big-time milestone marker for Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He'll be playing in his 1,000th game in the NHL tonight. Longtime Coyote, Canuck for a couple of years. Last year's in Florida. Now a member of the Maple Leafs for the next few years, and he's playing in his 1,000th game. So that's pretty cool. 1,000 games for OEL tonight. So they'll, I don't imagine he'll get the silver stick in Washington. I guess that'll probably happen when he gets back to Toronto. But hopefully the boys play a little inspired, and maybe OEL can spark this club at some point, and we can see the OEL of old show up, much like we're watching the Ovi of old. So that'll be a pretty cool milestone. So congratulations to Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who will skate in his 1,000th game tonight. And we'll see if he can do it in a win. That's obviously the goal for the Maple Leafs, coming off a loss last night. Get back on the horse, back to their winning ways, and try and keep in lockstep in a very competitive Atlantic division. All right, that's going to do it for me here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. I'm Mike DiStefano. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow the show at Locked On Leafs. Go ahead, follow Dave too at D_Morisuti. He should be back on tomorrow's podcast where we'll have another episode to break down Maple Leafs and Capitals. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.